This is the Blockchain Real Estate Podcast, sponsored by the Blockchain Real Estate Summit. If you're interested in the intersection of real estate, blockchain technology, AI, and more, you've come to the right place. Don't miss your opportunity to attend the Blockchain Real Estate Summit 2024, happening this September 24th through 26th, online for our worldwide audience. Get your tickets at blockchainrealestatesummit.com/registration. Enjoy the show.
Boom. And we are live. Hello and welcome to another Chicago Blockchain Real Estate Collective Meetup. I'm your host, Adam Carswell, today joined by my co-host for now. Michael Flight's going to join us in a little bit. He's on a very important call. So we have Jason Ricks here filling in with me for the time being. Jason, happy to have you here with me. Before we dive in today, any updates on your end? Happy New Year.
Yeah, great to see you again, Adam. Hope all is well with you as well. Busy start to the new year, really crazy finish to the end of the year. Really excited, can't wait to launch our fund. The Liberty Fund, or the Liberty Real Estate Fund, will be live hopefully by the next month. We've had to figure out a last couple of items and nuances to the foreign piece. So just really dotting the I's and crossing the T's on making sure that we have everything tied up and getting ready to launch. So very exciting time for us. And not getting a ton of sleep, obviously working around the clock. And I got a baby that's 15 months old, so he's keeping me very active at home as well.
Love it. Congratulations, 15 months.
That's right. He made it. He's walking around like crazy, opening every drawer. So I'm very busy on my toes.
What's the one piece of wisdom that you learned over the past 15 months?
Patience with your wife and with your son. So you gotta have both of those.
Love it. All right, well, here we go. Time for some blockchain. We go from babies to blockchain.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you everyone for joining us. Everyone who's here live, really appreciate you investing your time with us. Definitely going to get a ton of value out of today. And if you're joining us on the replay, be sure to subscribe there and check out the show notes for links connected to today's message. And if you're listening on the Dream Chasers platform, please drop us a rating there as well. Don't forget to subscribe. And there should be a video link to the replay there in the show notes as well. So, all right, the title of our meetup today is Tokenization as a Service. Real quick, also, before I forget, I want to give a thank you to our team, Courtney, Jordan, Sharav, Sam, Jason, and also the Black Manta marketing team. Everyone's done a really fantastic job making sure this comes full circle here today. So just want to give a big thank you to you guys. But yeah, before we dive in, kind of just want to do a quick background, a little bit of an informal introduction before the main one. And Jason, I'm going to flip it to you here. Could you kind of tell us a little bit about Black Manta and Brian and what we're getting ready to learn about here today, and also our relationship with them?
No, absolutely. So I'm super excited to have Brian on. We've engaged Brian. We did a very thorough search. A lot of months went into this to identify the right type of partner that we could have, and someone that understood not only the real estate space, but also the STO and security token space. And Brian and Alex and his team have done a tremendous job building a brand that I think is probably one of the best in class. And they have a broad exposure to European markets, which is one of our core competencies that we're trying to achieve with the Liberty Real Estate Fund. So these guys have a ton of knowledge. I think they're probably a few years ahead of a lot of US investors, just given their exposure to STOs, and couldn't be more excited to have him a part of our team. And Brian, we just signed up with Black Manta a few months ago and got a lot of the applications in, and we're really kind of going back and forth on this foreign structure. They've been a tremendous help and really going to expose us to a lot of investors that wouldn't necessarily see us here from the States. So can't wait to dig into this and just kind of understand more about his company and just share his knowledge that he has.
Love it. Well, thank you, Jason. And now here we go, guys. So Brian Elders is a partner at Black Manta with a long track record as a leader in international financial and professional services. He's based in Ireland, Poland, Hungary, Singapore, and Hong Kong, and he has a degree in business and law and qualifications in accounting, treasury, and quant finance. Maybe it's quantum finance. Maybe I got that. Brian is a great believer in innovation and passionate about the impact blockchain and digital assets have in global finance. And outside of work, Brian has a great little family. And anytime that he has left in the day, he indulges in watching and playing all sorts of sports, including soccer, darts, which I know darts is actually pretty big here in Newfoundland where I am. That's funny. He's Irish and there's the influence there. Skiing and marathon runs. That's very interesting. And so, Brian, before you break the ice here for us today, I want you to share that FBI story that you were telling me about before we got started. It was pretty good.
I've had a long and varied career that I can tell you a little bit more about in a second, but I was working with an American company, and I was on a board of theirs in Europe. And when I visited their head office in Texas, they said I did very well in the exam. And I said, which exam? And I said, oh, the FBI had to check you out because we have some military nuclear business in this company. So before you joined the board, they did a review and you passed very well. And that was the first I knew of it. So
nice.
It was good to know I passed.
You passed. So yeah, high level of clearance here today, guys. Definitely a sign for the quality of information you're about to receive. So Brian, here we go. The stage is yours. We want to encourage everyone as we go throughout the presentation. You can use the Q&A box below and go ahead and type any questions you have for Brian along the way. We're gonna have about 15 minutes of Q&A at the end of his presentation. So really want to get the most out of that as well. So don't be shy. And here we go, Brian. The stage is yours.
Okay, no problem. I started off today with some slides, which I can go through and present. I'll bring them up now. But yeah, feel free to ask any questions, and I look forward to the Q&A afterwards. So just give me a moment, and we'll try and share the screen. There we go. And then if I make it presenting, is that clear to, well, almost clear to everybody?
Yep, we're good to, well, it's loading now.
It's loading. Okay, here we go. Okay.
Right.
So, so this is me, and you heard a little bit about me already. There's a couple of extra pieces in here that might be relevant. I'm advisor to a project called Labs in Hong Kong, which is a property tokenization project. We're also partners of Black Manta. And, you know, in the introduction, it was said some of the countries that I lived in, but I actually did live in the US way back in the 1990s. In 1997, I was in Boston. So I've seen a good bit of the world before I returned here to Ireland. My professional background is I worked mainly in banking and professional services. So I do have a capital markets background before I got sidetracked into all things digital assets. That happened a few years ago when I was living in Singapore. I ended up getting involved in a company that on a project that was looking at self-sovereign digital identities. They're obviously extremely important. Identity is a very important part of how assets change and evolve and move from A to B to C. So that then evolved into an ICO back in the heyday of ICOs. We were one of the early ones out. And I think we were the first ICO that ended up in a regulated place. It's in back in 2017. The only place for it was Mauritius, and it's at a financial services sandbox there to this day. So one of the projects that did what it was supposed to do from that era, and that got me into the whole area of other digital assets. And by the end of 2017, I've been involved in the setup of a tokenized fund in Singapore. So at that stage, if you look back to the end of 2017, I could see that the whole world of assets from newer type of assets like Bitcoin and utility tokens or governance tokens, all the way through to old style assets like debt and equity, would all be affected by this blockchain technology and the tools and techniques and schemes that will come with the application of that technology. So I was at the time I was working in Hong Kong, and it actually turned out that it was Europe that was taking one of the early leads when it comes to the tokenization of debt, equity, and other securities. And Black Manta, I was introduced to a mutual friend in Austria. Black Manta is a multi-STO platform. It's based in Germany, in Berlin. It's regulated by BaFin, so the SEC equivalent in Germany. Because it's in the European Union, it has access to all the 27 countries of the EU through passporting. Used to be into the UK, but due to Brexit, there's a lot of uncertainty about how that will work, but all the rest of the EU. So we have a company in Luxembourg as a holding company. We have a company in Vienna where Alex is based, and Christian. And we also have a business development technology company in Dublin and Ireland. So the tokenization of a service is a registered trademark of Black Manta. And the idea is that we're a one-stop shop for tokenizing securities in Europe. So if we look at this market, and I think, as I was saying, I was sitting in Asia looking over at this, and I was looking at countries like Germany and France really making strides to embrace some of these new ideas. And the European Commission and the European Parliament also appear to be right behind many of these initiatives. And we have here a little bit of some information from the European Commission. They see that crypto assets are one of the major applications of blockchain for finance, and they expect the market to grow to 2 trillion by 2030 with the 59% compound annual growth rate, which, if all goes well, it'll be tremendous to be one of the pioneers of growing that and one of the first movers in that space. So Black Manta is the first broker dealer that has been regulated in this way in the European Union. In Europe, we have other initiatives in countries like Switzerland and the UK, which are now not in the EU, where there are some other regulated entities, but we're the first in Germany and the first across Europe. The other thing that maybe is worth pointing out now is that the way broker-dealers work in Europe is slightly different than America, and the license that we have does enable us to go to retail. So it's something that sometimes is forgotten when we're talking to some of our American partners. So if we look at Black Manta, we call it a multi-STO platform. So we're agnostic to the type of security that our clients wish to sell or broker. It can be debt or equity, it can be derivative, it can be some sort of hybrid of those. I think that we will see lots of innovation with blockchain and with digital assets about different types of assets. But our aim is to be agnostic to the type of asset and indeed the type of blockchain or the tech stack that's used. What's important is that security that is tokenized in some way. So what we aim to be as a company is a one-stop agency. So for the technical, financial, and legal needs. So when you look at how this should be arranged and organized and brought to the market, our team has experience in that space. We may be a small team, but we have legal and financial experience that is absolutely relevant to the space, and indeed fund experience too. We're a new company, so we don't have the thundering herd of Merrill Lynch created yet or anything like that, but we do have a growing retail and professional investor pool. And I think that 2021 should see that grow significantly as the industry matures a little piece and more investors are getting more comfortable with onboarding into the space. We're also putting together a partner distribution network. We do have broker-dealer partners in the US. We also have partners in the Middle East, in Singapore, and quite a number of other places looking to partner with us, because many people look to Europe and they come to us and they see us as a great partner in Europe and wish to partner with us in their home country. So that partner distribution network is growing and hopefully will become more and more powerful as time goes by. So if we take a quick look at what a security token is from an issuer's perspective, quite a bit of this is quite similar to what you would see for any other security. You're basically structuring it properly, getting the documentation in place. What's different here is that instead of making the paperwork to go out to people, essentially you're making the tokens to go out to people. And then you have to have your marketing and placement strategy, and then you issue the token. And if you're working with us, you issue it through our portal, which gives you, as I say, access to all of the European Union. And depending on the type of arrangement and structure that has been put in place, either professional, institutional, or retail investors, or some combination of those. I can talk a little bit more about that. And the example that we give of the one that we have done last year, which was a retail one and took advantage of some of the rules applicable for smaller raises that I can explain in a while. So from an investor perspective, this is hopefully where things are going to get much nicer and better for investors. The way that the arrangement is that it should be relatively painless. to onboard, to even to KYC and AML. All of that, you should be able to do online if you have everything, ready. So then you basically then choose you assign your wallet, you choose the project that you're going to, and then you can make a transfer. In Europe and in Germany in particular, we can do fiat and we can do Ethereum and Bitcoin. So the way that our KYC and AML works is that we have sufficient knowledge and control over the source of funds through the processes that we have, that it's acceptable for us to accept those cryptocurrencies. Hopefully we will have more in the future, but for now we have fiat, Bitcoin and Ethereum. So once that transfer is made, then the investment is made and the investor receives their investment. So
hey, Brian,
yeah.
Sorry to stop you. I apologize. Just
no
for
worries.
Listeners, do you mind just sticking on item number 2 and maybe going into a little bit more detail on KYC and AML, just what that may require from an investor standpoint? Like, what do those exact steps kind of look like?
Black Manta is regulated in Germany, so we follow the rules that BaFin lays down, and the rules in Germany are coming under the whole European AML5 directive. So there's and generally AML is kind of consistent across most countries. I think what is a little bit different about our process is that we have to do a video as part of the KYC. So there's both the documentation review. So it's the usual that you would expect. You're going to be looking at where the person is from, validating who they are, where they live, their source of funds, and you'll also have this video piece. So if you're an investor that will be coming on board, it just follows a process, and then you're a customer of ours. Then because we're a financial institution, quite often clients of ours might have some needs of their own when it will come to identifying their customers. But the process that we have typically, especially with the video and things like that, is more than nearly every other country needs. So we're able to share that, appropriately with everybody's permissions, so that we can be that kind of source of KYC and AML for every other participant in the project, for the clients that will come through Black Manta.
And a lot of this can be done just with like your smartphone, right? As far as taking the video of yourself, it's almost like a video selfie for a lot of term.
It's more than a video selfie. You actually talk to a real person. So so it's something that I think I mentioned I moved back to Europe recently, and I'm only getting used to this because when I lived in Singapore and Hong Kong, there was different requirements, and I was never talking to a real person. And you'd have your documents, and you would be describing them in a particular way that passes certain security tests. It's not that difficult. It doesn't take that long. It's like all of these processes. At the end of the day, it's fairly standardized.
Yeah, perfect. And then number 3, and I'll leave you alone and let you get back to it on transferring your wallet data. There's a lot of wallet providers out there, right? I mean, Coinbase is the one that I use, but there's some pros and cons with that one. There's multiple other options available to investors, and you guys are open to whichever wallet they currently operate with. To summarize, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. At the moment, we've pretty much operated within an Ethereum ecosystem. That may or could change in the future, but at the moment, we don't have any stipulations that say the wallets have to be arranged in a particular way. Obviously, with some of the FinCEN stuff that was coming through in the US and indeed in countries like the Netherlands and Europe, sometimes there is either attempts to or ideas about having more regulation around the wallets. But at the moment, the investor comes along with their wallet, and when they're identifying themselves, much the same as identifying a bank account or something, it will identify the wallet.
Yep. So pretty seamless process, just a little bit of a different nuance. I've been through this KYC AML and kind of uploading my wallet process. It's a few steps, really not that painful. And after you go through it, they're basically all the same, maybe with a few different nuances with video over a snapshot of photos, things like that. But yeah, pretty painless.
Yeah, indeed. Like if you're ready for the thing, and you have all the documents and stuff, you know, you're through in half an hour. It's not that hard.
No, perfect. Sorry about that. I'll let you get back to it.
No worries. Keep asking questions. It's no problem. So yeah, that's kind of the SDO process there from an investor's perspective. So we have a small number of projects that are on our website already. You know, you can log in there and you can see them from the US. It's not geo-blocked, but of course you can't make an investment because it's for European investors typically. But you know, we have Spice VC, Cosmo X, and INX up there live at the moment. If you look at the pipeline that we have, we see lots of real estate, we see lots of funds, we see quite a considerable number of tech companies, especially blockchain tech companies who are in this space, who are looking to tokenize some part of their fundraising, and we see commodities. So we see I would say that if I look at our business at the moment, we see a lot more activity from issuers than investors, and that's going to be I think one of the key evolutions of this year is with I think with both hard work and a dose of luck, we're going to finally crack the investor side of it in 2021, because across all of the STO world, that is the piece that's been lagging. But you know, they're the use cases we see, and you know, we get lots and lots of inquiries every day. I didn't check before this, but we probably have something like 60 or something in a pipeline of people looking to use our services. So then real estate investment, some challenges with it. You know, real estate is quite a diverse sector. There's lots of different pieces of real estate. You know, there's lots of different ways you can go in. You can go directly into the property itself. That theoretically is possible. Again, you're getting down into very specifics around countries and what you can or cannot tokenize. We do see projects coming to us with direct investment in the property, but generally we would see it through some sort of structure. So we would see it through a fund, through a company, or through some other type of structure where an investor can get access to the product. Other challenges we see with real estate is the high entry thresholds. We'll talk about that in a minute, about what we did with the project last year. We can't get around some of the complications with cross-border transactions. At the end of the day, these tax rules and other investment rules still apply. It might be tokenized security, but it is a security. It depends on the type of security that you have about the process of ownership transfer. Obviously, we're looking to streamline that and make it as quick and as painless as possible, so that either there's a formal or secondary market or an informal secondary market, but opening those up so the liquidity is there. There can be high transaction costs, especially if you're moving the actual property and it's capital intensive. So you know, these are very generic things, but if we look specifically at some of the advantages that tokenization can give us, it should be able, for an investor, it should be able to give you access to global assets. So we expect to see marketplaces emerging that will facilitate access to assets that maybe were more difficult to access in the past. We should have 24/7 access to markets, so markets never close. That's a bit of a blessing and a curse at the same time. A lot of traditional market participants are quite uncomfortable that things never close. The transactions should be quick, they should be low cost, they should enable better diversification. We expect to see lots of different types of property assets coming through, and when the marketplaces get moving, you know, that will give a lot of choice. There should be the process should be very secure, and we should be able to engineer situations using the technology that we have, that we enable smaller investors to get involved in some of these projects. And indeed, when we come on to the example that we're going to talk about in a moment, you can see that we did enable small investors to get into a project that typically they would never be able to see or be able to participate in. For real estate owners, this should be, as it matures, an efficient and scalable way at attracting capital. There should be more liquidity and an access to retail investors that maybe was not possible under old scenarios. There will be different ways at looking at fractional ownership of property. we'll eventually see some standardized transactions and some rules. At the moment, everything is kind of ad hoc and new, so we haven't really got to that standardization yet. We should have a global investor pool as these things come together. Again, the 24/7 secondary market. Compliance, hopefully using technology again, will become a less painful part of the process. And overall, we're looking at a situation with lower cost. So the use case, this was the Tigris project. This was a residential real estate development in Berlin. So the whole project volume was 11 million. And what was tokenized was a 2 million slice of that. Now, the reason for 2 million was in Europe, we have the prospectus directive. And in the prospectus directive, it offers for smaller fundraisers the opportunity not to do a full prospectus. So much cheaper way at putting together the documentation to address certain constituencies of investor. So this particular size, this 2 million, worked very well for Austria and Germany, which was where the offer was. And the documentation was very lightweight. Like in Germany, it was only 3 pages long. It did have to be signed off by the regulator, but it was only 3 pages long. And that document allowed the public, the general public in both Austria and Germany, to participate in this offering. So this was a development, 40 standard size apartments. The lowest investment amount was 500 euros. So a very small investment amount. And this was tokenized participation rights in the mezzanine part of the financing. So you have, a relatively high yielding, expected IRR of 8% with the profit share that was in there. Property investment from 500 euros. So something unusual and something new. So our experience of that was that that was the first one that we did. So I think that if I look at it, even though it was all sold out, there was the participation of retail investors was something that was something that we would like to improve upon and do more of. I think that when you look at how to approach these projects, there's no getting away from marketing and making noise and getting in front of people. And just because it's tokenized isn't going to do that for you. You're going to have to be careful and deliberate about how these things are advertised. So that piece, and indeed retail across all of this space, I think is something that needs a lot of development. So this was the Tigris project that we did, I think, about 10 or 11 months ago. And as I say, this was done in Austria and Germany. So this was that's the presentation that I have. One last thing before I finish, I talked to a few people today. I just said I'd take a temperature check from some people who we work with, just about what they would see as the challenges. And some of them chime with some of our experience. If we look at if we have a look at the Tigris project, I remember speaking to an asset manager, and they had not invested in a digital asset before. So they needed to get a custodian, and the custodian that they required needed to have certain characteristics. So it was actually a bit of a challenge to find a custodian who could deliver for them. So I think that moving investors from that traditional method of investing to some of these new ways of investing is something that takes some time, because you're moving, like especially with real estate, there's a lot of old school kind of methods and markets in the place, and they can be quite slow moving when it comes to change. So I think that's one of the challenges that we have. Another one that came up a couple of times is questions over regulation. And I think that we're comfortable with regulation, and I think the clients that we have are. But when it comes to investors, sometimes they hesitate a little bit because they're not entirely sure about where regulation is going. And again, that's a learning process we have. The other thing is getting large-scale developers into this space. I do think we have a movement coming. We have especially in America, we see more action with larger players. But the labs project that I referenced, that is the chairman of that is from one of the big property owning families in Hong Kong. So they a multi-billion-dollar portfolio, and he's chairman of this new initiative, who's a partner of ours. So I do think that those larger scale developers do need to be attracted in. We need to get more of them in. need to get their brand names behind some of this. That will really help the market. But again, it's a challenge in that they're not here yet, or they're not all here yet. And it takes some time to get there. So when we get all of those things, hopefully the liquidity and the other features of this market that we are all hoping will make it distinctive and better will come through. So yeah, that's my few slides, my little bit of a presentation. I'm happy to take questions and to chat for as long as you wish.
Fantastic.
Brian, thank you very much. Really, that was an exhaustive presentation. Really enjoyed it. I want to confirm, when you're talking about custodian, it's not the guy cleaning the stairs in the hallways at the Berlin. So could you explain a little bit about what a custodian does?
Well, it's a kind of a traditional custodian, like the Boney Mellons and stuff of the world that aren't actually active in this space yet. In Germany, again, you have some new. They have introduced some laws and regulations that have caused a lot of custodians to emerge there. So we're quite lucky. So traditionally, this would be some sort of bank that would provide a service. So if you're an asset manager and the way that you're arranged is that you're not supposed to self-custodize things, you know, you're not allowed to own that. There's meant to be that buffer between you and your client, where there's an independent custodian as part of your mandate. That's the type of custodian we're talking about. You know, in Europe, we have some of the German banks now provide this. So if you need a financial institution, it's there. And also in this digital asset space, there's a whole plethora of new players that are coming out. And you know, in the US, you have a couple of big strong players coming through, both in Fidelity and Prime Trust and things like this. So that type of custodian is what we're talking about.
Okay, and I got one more question for you. Do you think that Europe and Asia are farther ahead with security tokens than the United States right now?
Very hard question. And it's sort of one that is almost mood-based in that this whole space is very new. Like if you look at, for instance, if we take a look at any of the exchanges, you take T0 or Fusang, in Asia and Artex in Europe, they all have very low volumes. So everything is new. So I would say that there are certain parts of Asia and Europe that have certain things going on that maybe America doesn't. But America, at the end of the day, can move very, very quickly. We see the new head of the OCC over there has made a big impact in a very short time in how banks approach digital assets. So you look at, say, Singapore and Germany, I would say they're ahead of the curve. But I wouldn't say America is lagging back too far in the distance. I think, there's ways that it can catch up with these places. They're not that far ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Brian,
all right.
Using your crystal ball, sorry to jump in.
Go ahead.
My crystal ball, okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to make you bring like a crystal ball. I'm curious to get, what do you estimate the growth is going to be over the next 5 to 10 years on digital security offerings? I know you're really close to this. You're obviously a lot of people are asking you guys to market their product. Would love to just get your opinion and thoughts on where you see it going from a growth standpoint.
I'm probably the most biased person in the world to ask, given that I'm a partner in a company like Black Manta. So I see a glorious future, of course. But what do I see? I see that there's both new companies and innovators like ourselves doing things. I think that's important. And, when you're pushing something new, it's always important. But if you're looking to make an impact on the financial world, that means that some of the traditional players need to get involved. And I do see that happening. If I look across Europe, SocGen in France, one of the largest banks there, they have a digital assets team. They have a subsidiary for tokenization. So they're going forward with it. You go down to Spain and look at Santander. That's huge all across Europe, but also in Latin America and indeed in the US. They have a team run by an Irish American, actually, who does digital investment banking. And then you look at the other. So I look at traditional finance, and they're getting involved. Maybe it's not the top of their list yet, but what we have is the innovators are innovating, and the bigger players are going, okay, we can't lose this. We need to stay on top of this. And I think that this has a momentum. that will see very significant growth in the next couple of years. When it comes to the numbers, if we had 2 trillion in a couple of years, like the European Commission says, that's a good number. That's twice what the whole crypto market is today. Yeah,
it's a lot of liquidity. No,
Yeah.
100%. And you guys work with so many different investors. So this is probably a selfish question, but I'll ask it anyway. With so many people onboarded, what do you think? What's the feedback been, both positive and negative, for people that are owning these digital securities? And hell, maybe it's all positives, but I'm just kind of curious to get your feedback on, has there been one kind of new, nuance or nuisance for the investor that they say, man, I'm going through this, I wish this was a little bit better, or you know what, I really love it. No difference from a private investment.
I think anyone who's come through it, I haven't heard anybody giving out and complaining about it. We still do have investors who say, my mandate says I can't do this, so give me a piece of paper, I'm not investing. So they haven't really changed.
Yeah.
I think anyone who comes through it, I think has a good experience. There's so few assets out there and they're not trading yet. There's no real liquidity. So I think we're even before you can have proper feedback. When we have many more assets out there, we have secondary markets going and things like that. That's when the real testing and the real proof will be.
Yeah.
At the moment, there's just not enough asset out there.
Yep. No, that makes sense. We're hearing the same thing from our end as well. It's just going to take some time to mature.
Yeah, and it's kind of your chicken and egg. You can't have loads of investors on unless you get loads of assets. So
yeah,
can't get then the asset owners are going, but you don't have loads of investors yet. So we're right at that moment where I think the infrastructure has been built, and now it's the time to use that infrastructure and bring the asset owners and the investors together.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, it just opens up so many different possibilities.
Yeah, like this year, as I say, we work with Fusang in Malaysia, we work with INX in the US, we work with Archax in London. All of these basically have no assets there yet. At the end of this year, all of these will have lots of assets. So I think this year will be a big year for that change and development in the market.
And if you get to that $1 trillion number, like we were talking about earlier, then I think it makes it a lot more easier. And again, there's going to be a lot more trading options as well.
Yes, 100%.
All right, so we had some questions come through here from the audience, and we want to encourage you guys to also follow up. We're going to break the ice with Evangelos's question, but again, want to maximize this time and the opportunity you have here to speak with Brian. So Brian, Evangelos asked, how many $500,000 euro investors, or is it euro, 500,000 euro investors did you have in the Berlin project? And was that the average investment? And how long did it take you to cover the 2 million euros?
So was it 500 euro? I think was the thing. I actually don't have that number to hand. I'd have to ask Alex. I was coming on as a partner when that was launching. So there wasn't a great number. We're talking maybe 100 or something at the maximum. And then because it was a 2 million raise, it was a couple of bigger investors filled it out.
There we go.
So I don't know the number. I do know that the whole retail piece was not that fast. It was the beginning of the first lockdown in Germany and Austria, so the timing was probably not the best. But the retail side, also the person who's behind it, he's a property developer, but he's also an enthusiast for technology. So he also wanted to test this out and see how it went. So we had a modest amount of retail, and but there was also a modest amount of kind of marketing effort that went into it.
It looked pretty successful though from when I saw it, because I thought that they had raised most of the money within 60 to 90 days. So from my perspective, it looked pretty impressive. So
it was a small raise, so it doesn't take much to fill it out.
I understand, but just for a completely brand new thing, and 2 million is not that small of a raise. So compared to other stuff. So it seemed pretty successful to me, which is why we initially were attracted to Black Manta, because we said if these guys can sell this, they can sell anything.
Well, I think we're at the beginning of a process, and as I say, I hope that in this year that the numbers of people participating and who will be involved will grow exponentially.
Yeah.
All right. Another question. This may have been touched on, but let's reiterate it. Who is the most popular custodian in Europe right now?
I don't know the answer to that. I know that I don't, is there like 40 or 50 of them or something in Germany alone? So there's just quite a few. Who's the most popular? I don't know the answer to that. When we are dealing with clients, as I say, some have very particular needs. They might need, a financial institution, or they might need somebody who has an omnibus account or something like this. So I cannot think of a leader in Europe. There's nobody, like in the US, I can think of Prime Trust and Fidelity straight away. But in Europe, there's nobody comes into my mind like that.
All right, and this one is from Jay Whitcop. What is the typical split between retail and institutional investors you see? And you can use the project in Berlin maybe as an example.
We see very few retail at the moment. So it's primarily non-retail.
Where do you see the most investor demand coming from right now?
Also a hard question. We're obviously European based, so it has to be in Europe. I'm trying to even think around where it is. It's fairly spread. Like we're Germany and Austria, I would say that's where we're based. I'm the only non-German or Austrian on the team, so their roots, their heritage, their networks are there. So in Germany and Austria is where we're still strongest.
Oh, I thought your accent was German.
Unfortunately not. I can speak it really badly if you give me a large beer.
No, I really just want to go down to the James Joyce pub down the street, and talk to crack.
I'd love to join you, and when COVID is finished, I hope I will.
Okay.
We got a question from Daniel Lev. Is it difficult? And he comes from a background in digital transformation and blockchain as well. So he just wants to know for you, is it difficult to explain the blockchain technology and onboard new investors to understand it? And then what methodology do you use to do that?
I think that's one of the major challenges that's there. I think when you're looking at security tokens, digital assets like equities and debt, you're really not looking at the technology first, you're looking at the quality of the asset first. So it's not like looking at Bitcoin or something like this that is, sort of divorced from bricks and mortar. Real estate is bricks and mortar. So I think the first thing that you're looking at is the quality of the investment. And the second thing then is the digital security piece. And then, as I said, you're speaking to them about how it is that they can fit it into their process to purchase it. If it's an individual, it tends to be fine. It's easy enough. If it's an institution of some description, they may need to have a new custodian. They may need to change mandates and things like this and processes. And you basically have to just handhold them as best you can through that process.
Sure. And we got about 5 minutes left here. A couple more questions coming through. Got another one from Evangelos. Regarding marketing efforts and refinancing that 2 million euros for Berlin, what was the expense/budget in marketing to get those 100 investors, and which platforms did you use to make the project public? For example, Facebook, Google?
There was, I would say that there was only a few thousand spent on it. I don't know the actual number. I can find it out and give it to you guys later. There was definitely some Facebook done, and definitely some LinkedIn. But there was a very modest spend on that, very modest.
See, Daniela is here. Daniela, got your question. Hey, Brian, have you heard of Liberland?
I have heard of Liberland. It's a small island in the Danube that theoretically is its own country.
Yeah, we have a few Liberlandians, including myself here on the call. So that's pretty cool.
Oh, very good. I have met some of your representatives, and I know your ambassador in Singapore. He's a Finnish guy who was involved in crypto.
Okay, all right. Stefan Rust, we just had him on the.
Is that Billy?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Yeah, he's actually head of he's setting up the companies for Liberland now.
I came across a couple of other people as well. Is Ruben Godfrey involved in things like this as well? I think he is.
I think he spoke at the anniversary, yeah. And we'll have to get you one of these, Brian. It's an e-residency card. It sounds like you're on track for one. So
I've been around that part of the world. I lived in Hungary, which is obviously just north of there.
Right.
But I've never set foot in Liberland yet.
That's why we call Adam the voice of liberty, because he does the Liberland show.
Okay, excellent. So I have heard of it, but never set foot there.
One day. Okay, so last question. We got another one coming from Jay Whitcop. So tokenization as a service, in parentheses, suggests Black Manta operates a digitally automated system or web services. Do you offer APIs to third parties?
So if you come to us and you have nothing, we can tokenize the asset for you and do everything. Okay. If you come to us and you're, for instance, like Cosmo X, and you come to us, our Spice VC as well. They're both with Securitize. We have a fairly basic connection with Securitize at the moment, and as our business grows, I think we will expand and have nice API connections to lots and lots of different players, be they tokenization stacks like that, or exchanges, and so on and so forth. We're in the early stages of building things, and I would say that the technology at the moment and the way it's linked together is fairly clunky and needs to be probably built out over the years, as you'd expect.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that? Aside from Securitize and Solid Block, what are some of the other tokenization platforms that you've seen?
Oh, there's so many. We used to say that there was more tokenization platforms than tokens. You have Swarm, you have DigiShares, you have Tokeny, who are our partners. You have the Labs team; they have their own one. There's several in the US that I can't even remember the names of, but there's a lot of them, and it's for us. If somebody comes to us without a tokenization platform, we can help them with it. But quite frequently, our clients, when they do come to us, they already have something, so we end up working with them. So we see a lot.
Okay, thank
and
you.
then there's other clients who build their own.
Right.
So I'm not sure why you do that, but each to their own.
All right. And so as we wrap things up here, Brian, what is the best way for anyone tuned in right now to follow up and get in touch with you?
If you go to Black Manta website, you can get our details. I'm Brian at blackmanta.capital. I think I'm fairly easy to find. So yeah, just send us an email, send us a Telegram, a Signal, WhatsApp, whatever floats your boat. They all work.
And it is blackmanta.capital.
Blackmanta.capital, yes.
Thank you, Michael. And if anyone has any questions for us here at the Chicago Blockchain Real Estate Collective, you can connect with us or contact us at hello@libertyfund.io. So thank you everyone again for joining us here today at the Chicago Blockchain Real Estate Collective. Our next meetup will be next month, February, and the guest is to be determined, but I know Michael has some very unique ideas up his sleeve. So really looking forward to what we do there. Be sure to subscribe to the Meetup page, which is meetup.com/CBREC1. That's meetup.com/CBREC1. That's number 1. Also, before we close it out here, Michael, Jason, you guys can kind of decide who goes first here, but just want to know any updates on Liberty Real Estate Fund. I know we've got big plans for 2021.
Well, I'm going to let Jason handle Liberty Real Estate Fund, but I do want to let everybody know that there's replays. This will be posted on the libertyfund.io website, and there's replays of every other Chicago blockchain meetup. Just go to libertyfund.io events, and we have the replays that not only do we have excellent guests like Brian, but we've had some exceptional speakers, including Jamie Finn from Securitize and some other really great speakers. So if you're interested in the space, go to libertyfund.io events, and it has a lot of information. Now I'm going to turn it over and give it to the clean-shaven haircut man, Jason Ricks.
Yeah, I had that beard for a while. It looked good for a minute, and then it got really gray. So putting all this fun stuff together has definitely brought on some new grays. Really excited. We plan on launching the fund in February. As I mentioned earlier, Adam, it's just really kind of dotting the I's and crossing the T's, specifically on the foreign structure piece. But Couldn't be more excited. Our thesis as we see it unfold with COVID, we couldn't be happier with our concept, even though it's probably a little bit of confirmation bias that we laugh about. But we're seeing some really good activity in the cap rate movement right now. We feel really strong. We've added a couple different categories of providers within the fund, and ultimately just excited to get it launched out to everybody and help others build wealth. So stay tuned. I know we're going to have a webinar coming soon, Adam, that Michael and I and you will put together, and we'll be blasting that out to everyone who's on our email list. And look forward to the next Chicago blockchain meetup, and look out for our newsletter soon regarding our podcast.
And I just want to pump one more webinar because Adam and I just did last week. If you're looking to know a little bit more about net lease properties, we did the 7 secrets of net lease properties, which kind of explain in detail what a net lease property is and why they're so exciting and why they're such a fantastic investment, especially right now when people are looking for, to quote my name, a flight to quality. So
there we go. And that also backs up
Nice.
what Brian was saying, which is, it's the quality of the asset that comes before the technology. And so, yeah, that's on the libertyfund.io website as well, right, Michael? If they want to see that replay.
Yeah. And also I do want to say that Black Manta has some great information on tokenization. So go to blackmantacapital.com too.
Or is it blackmanta.capital?
But blackmanta.capital.
And while I'm interrupting, I'd like to say thank you very much to everyone for the opportunity to speak. And I hope we're all getting set for a fantastic 2021.
Perfect. Thank you. I was going to ask you to close us out there, Brian. You beat me to it. Nice. All right. Well, everyone, again, one more time, thank you for investing your time with us here today. If you enjoyed today's meetup, please be sure to subscribe on the platform that you're tuned in on, or directly on the Meetup website, which we mentioned is meetup.com/CBREC1. Check the show notes as well. And be sure, as I mentioned, to do all of this because it helps us with our SEO, overall visibility, and most importantly, bringing on top quality guests like Brian. So thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Thanks a million.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Blockchain Real Estate Podcast, hosted by the Blockchain Real Estate Summit. Don't forget to sign up for the Blockchain Real Estate Summit 2024, happening this September 24th through 26th, online for our worldwide audience. Get your tickets at blockchainrealestatesummit.com/registration. If you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to follow the Blockchain Real Estate Podcast on your favorite platform and leave us a review. Your feedback really helps increase the visibility of our show, allowing us to reach more listeners like you. If you have someone in mind you would like us to interview, you can go to blockchainrealestatesummit.com and leave a comment.
Hi, this is Adam Carswell, the voice of Liberty. This podcast is solely intended for informational and entertainment purposes only and is not intended to provide tax, legal, investment, or accounting advice. You should consult your own tax, legal, accounting, or investment advisors before engaging in any transaction or undertaking. Thank you for listening to the Blockchain Real Estate Podcast, which is a part of the Blockchain Real Estate Summit Network. Go to blockchainrealestatesummit.com for more information, free reports, and giveaways with free stuff. Thank you.